If you don't know what this is about, check out my video on the Detroit Red Wings being guaranteed a top 2 pick that we uploaded yesterday. It had a whole bunch of comments. Everybody is crowding around in that comment section, giving their input on the draft and talking about this. So, because I said in that video that I will be talking about the Ottawa Senators as well, this is that video. If you want to know what this is about, check out the video from yesterday, but pretty much to sum it all up, the NHL is proposing a few changes to its draft lottery and its draft system. They sent out a memorandum to all 31 NHL teams, and the memo itself has a few new rules, a few new interesting ideas that could come to fruition if the memo actually gets approved. If it gets approved, then the lottery and the draft itself will undergo some serious changes that people are quite interested in. Now, the biggest one that we talked about yesterday was there would only be one lottery done for the first overall pick, and that's it. It would put a restriction on the amount of times teams can drop in the standings, and it would give most teams a better, more projectable outlook as to where they're going to draft. Because of this, it changes the way the Detroit Red Wings could approach the draft. Instead of being guaranteed a pick on 1, 2, 3, or 4, they're guaranteed 1 or 2. If another team wins the lottery for the first overall pick, that's it, you're done, boom. It's only one lottery, therefore you're only dropping one time. But Chris Johnston's tweet from a few days ago has a few other points too that highlight how the changes of this draft lottery system can affect some of these NHL teams. Detroit was one of them, but the next one was the Ottawa Senators. Chris Johnston says about Ottawa that they could do no worse than owning number 3 and number 4 in the NHL Entry Draft if this memo goes through and gets approved. Why? Well, it would be because there's only one lottery. There's only one chance to drop down. Right now, from the Tankathon NHL odds, the Senators have the 2nd and 3rd overall pick in the normal draft lottery standings. If, let's say, a team underneath them wins that first overall lottery, like, I don't know, a New Jersey or a Montreal or whatever, then Ottawa gets pushed down to number 3 and number 4. In the old system, they would have the opportunity to drop down to number 5 and number 6 because there would be a lottery done for 1, 2, and 3, giving teams underneath the Senators in the standings 3 opportunities to overtake Ottawa in the draft. But with only one lottery done, it makes things a little bit more secure. So with this idea in mind, if it goes through, man, the Ottawa Senators are going to get 2 picks in the top 4. It's guaranteed. If the Ottawa Senators don't win the first overall pick, and Detroit wins the first overall pick, the Senators will get number 2 and number 3. If the Ottawa Senators win first overall, then they have the possibility of getting 1st and 3rd, or 1st and 4th, depending on which pick of theirs is the one that actually wins. And the worst case scenario that could happen is if a team other than Detroit or Ottawa gets first overall. If a team like Montreal gets first overall, for example, then the worst Ottawa will do is 3 and 4. Detroit would move down to 2, and Ottawa would be sitting there to pick up the remains. So with this idea in mind, it kind of opens everything up as to how it could go. Last time we talked about the Ottawa Senators, we talked about them getting 2 picks in the top 6. That's what's guaranteed at the moment with the current NHL draft lottery format. But from 1 to 6, there's a lot of variance. You could get 2 of a Lafrenière, a Byfield, a Stützle, a Rossi, a Raymond, an Askarov, a Drysdale. There are many names in that conversation that you can have. But when you narrow it down to the top 4, boy oh boy, there's only really like burgers and fries the amount of guys that you can have in this discussion, in my opinion. And if you don't know the lingo, burgers and fries, 5 guys, you know, yeah, I'm funny. To me, it's Alexis Lafrenière, Quinton Byfield, Tim Stützle, Marco Rossi, and Lucas Raymond. Now you could have a lot of debate as to whether or not Marco Rossi is that guy, but in my opinion, Rossi is the guy who is also rounding out that top 5, especially the fact that he plays in Ottawa. He's beloved in that city already for the OHL team, and he was the best player in the CHL. There's a lot for me to believe that Ottawa may be interested in Rossi, so that's why I'm going to put him here for the sake of this conversation. So, when you're guaranteed 2 of these players, there's a lot that you can do right. So many options. And the fact is, there's only one lottery. And the combined odds of Detroit and Ottawa winning the first overall pick, it's 43.5%. Almost 50% of the odds say that the first overall pick will go to either Detroit or Ottawa. If it's Detroit, then Ottawa ends up with the second and third overall pick. If it's Ottawa, then they end up with the first overall pick and, let's just say, third or fourth. So there's a 50% chance that the Ottawa Senators are going to walk away with either Alexis Lafrenière or Quinton Byfield. The extra guy they get as well, Stützle, Raymond, or Rossi, whoever you want to have in that conversation for their second first-round pick. And that's only if they win. If the other 50% comes true and they drop to 3 and 4, then, oh, what a great consolation prize. You get Stützle and Lucas Raymond. How bad is that? Oh, man. So many conversations to be had here, and so many possibilities. In fact, you could even argue that what I'm talking about is complete bogus. Maybe they do step up to the plate and take the Jamie Drysdale 4th overall. Maybe they take the goaltender 4th overall after taking a Tim Stützle already 3rd overall. Or maybe they take a Lafrenière and an Askarov. Who knows? However, we do have to take into consideration that one quote that Pierre Dorion did say about the potential prospect of drafting consecutively in the 2020 NHL Entry Draft, that regardless of need, if the Sens get number 2 and number 3, which is likely because Detroit has the highest odds at number 1 from an individual pick standpoint, they will take the 2 best players instead of drafting 2 different positions. And again, I'll repeat myself off of what I said from that last video we made about this. The fact that he has to come out here and say that it's regardless of position they're going to draft the same, it implies to me that they do have their sights on 2 players of the same position. Is that a Byfield at center and a Stützle that you plan to develop as a center? Is that Lafrenière at left wing and a Lucas Raymond that you plan to have on left wing too? To me, though, it discredits the idea of Askarov and Drysdale, because the top 2 D-men in this draft, in my opinion, it's Drysdale, then you have Jake Sanderson. Sanderson is not a top 4 prospect, in my opinion, but if he does become a top 4 prospect, then my mind is absolutely going to be blown. Askarov, the goaltender. Well, the next projected goaltender on HockeyProspect.com's list, I know it's only one list, it's not the be-all and end-all, but HockeyProspect.com has 1 goaltender in the first round, and that's Askarov. They don't have any other goalies. The same can be said about a lot of other scouting lists, which means that there isn't any real possibility in my mind that Dorion was using this quote and referring to Askarov in any space. So, what is it? It's got to be forward then, right? 2 forwards in a row? That's something that, in my opinion, is the most probable here, based off of the quote that we have, and based off of the likely scenario that could happen if this memorandum does go through and is approved by the rest of the NHL teams, the National Hockey League itself, and ultimately shapes up the way we do the draft. So what is it? What is it? I want this guarantee to be set in place, man. I want this thing to go through just so we can put an end to all the speculation and actually establish a truth on whether or not the Senators are going to draft 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, have the possibility to drop down to 5th or 6th or not, and if the Red Wings are going to be guaranteed a pick in the top 2. Now, if the Red Wings get the 2nd overall pick, let's just say, and they draft that Tim Stützle 2nd overall, or if they draft him 1st overall, who knows, then all of a sudden things get very, very interesting from the Ottawa point of view, because if a Quinton Byfield is available past 1, you take him in my opinion. And the way things are shaping up, the weird draft story that the Red Wings have shaped up for themselves, and the weird Ottawa Senators situation that they just happen to fall right into because San Jose is bad, man, they're combining for a really, really interesting tale. So comment down below what you think about this situation. If Ottawa gets 1, 2, 3, or 4, and only is able to pick in that range, who do you think is their biggest target? I hope you enjoyed this video, such as that Trost 99, and bye.